Last week I got a haircut, and so now I look like a gay He-Man, which is not the goal. I mean, He-Man's kind of cool, but like a gay He-Man's not what I was going for. I mean, I've never sucked a dick yet tonight, so that's not my goal there. I actually dated a schizophrenic guy once, and man, they were all so crazy. He knew me so well, it was like he was inside of my own head, you know? I was actually raised Mormon, so really my goal in life is just to make my moms proud. When you're raised Mormon, born in Utah, raised Mormon, when you're raised Mormon, like, you don't get all the things that normal kids get. Like, I never got dinosaur chicken nuggets. Our chicken nuggets were in the shape of lies. And I remember the day that I decided to stop going to church. I was sitting in church being lectured about why gay people are allowed to go to church, but they can't get baptized, which the Mormons not getting along with the gays has never made any sense to me, because neither of them have a very good reputation when it comes to monogamy. So, but yeah, so being raised Mormon, I am gay, but I ended up dating a couple of women early on in my dating career, and one of the women that I dated, she self-described as a foodie, which is a term that I hate. Calling yourself a foodie is like saying, I love food, which we all fucking love food. Food's the shit. And also, you're calling yourself a foodie? I can tell you're a foodie. I'm looking at you. I know you love food. But she called herself a foodie, and she always talked about the best Mexican restaurant in town. And she decided one day that we're going to go to the best Mexican restaurant in town. And I thought since it was the best, I'd invite my dad and my stepmom along. And so we all roll up to this Mexican restaurant. I've heard so much about it. And we get there, and the first thing I notice is that there's TVs on the wall. And I'm not the biggest fan of TVs on the wall in a restaurant. I understand it. Some places they'll play sports. Some places you got whatever going. But they were playing Food Network. So I'm sitting there. I'm in this shithole, and I'm watching the best restaurants around the world, just wishing I was there. It was a mistake. But it was a Mexican restaurant, so my stepmom, who has 5 kids, felt right at home. She's not Mexican, but she has 5 Mexican kids. She dated a lot of Mexicans before my dad, obviously. But her kids had the most Mexican names on the planet. It was Ricky, Miguel, Luis, Cristiano, and the 5th one had the most Mexican name of all, Kyle. And she, having dated all these Mexican guys, she made the best Mexican food. So I always loved going over to her house because she made Mexican food almost as much as she made Mexican people. And so we're sitting there, and when the waitress comes up, I knew that she was going to try and order in Spanish, because she always orders in Spanish at the Mexican restaurant. So the waitress comes up, and she looks at the waitress, and she says, "Hola, ¿cómo estás?" And the waitress looks her dead in the eyes and goes, "I'm Filipino." So we finally, we get our food, and we're sitting down, and we get the chips on the table, and my ex starts to dip the chips into her water and then eat them, which I have never seen before. I'm grossed out. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And she says, "Oh, I like the tortilla chips. I just don't like the crunch." I'm like, "The crunch is the chip. You just invented a fucking tortilla. You should get it not deep fried next time." And so I'm looking at the menu, we're eating the chips, I'm trying to decide what to order, and so I turn to my ex and I go, "This is the best Mexican restaurant in town, like what would you recommend that I get?" And she says, "You have to try the hamburger." I was like, "You get a hamburger every time you come to the best Mexican restaurant in town?" She goes, "Yeah, trust me, this is the best hamburger you'll ever have." So the waitress comes up, and I asked the waitress, I'm like, "So I've been recommended the hamburger, but this is a Mexican restaurant, like I'm not going to order a hamburger." And so I asked the waitress, I say, what do you recommend as the best thing at this restaurant? And the waitress looks at me and she says, you shouldn't get the hamburger, it's a Mexican restaurant. Have you tried our chicken strips? So at that point, I should have known that I should have got out of this relationship if she takes me to the Mexican restaurant and gets a hamburger, but we kept dating for a bit, and she decided she wanted to spice things up in the bedroom. So I get home one day, and she says, I'm gonna blindfold you. And I'm like, okay. And so she blindfolds me, and then I hear a and I feel wet on my body. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And it rip off my blindfold, and I look down and she has a whipped cream can in her hand. And I'm like, you really are a foodie, aren't you? And she says that she wants me to spray the whipped cream on her and lick it off of her. And I'm like, I guess this is my cheat day, so I can do it, I guess. But, which by the way, if we can have cheat days in diets, why can't we have cheat days in relationships? Just like one a month, just to, you know, make me stick with it, stick with the program, you know? So I'm like, all right, so I'll do the whipped cream. So I take the whipped cream, and then I get there, and it's like I'm trying to fill in cracks in a ceiling. And she's like, put it inside of me, and I'm like, whoa, that's farther than I thought. Well, all right. So I pull it out, and the tip of this whipped cream is just dripping wet. I'm like, ugh. And then I guess I have to lick it off, so. Oh, God. And, yeah, that was another point when I should have known that I should have left this relationship. But we kept going. And so one day I'm hanging out with her and my brother and my brother's girlfriend. We're all just hanging out on my roof, you know, smoking a little weed, drinking some Fireball. And my brother gets pretty hungry, and so he runs to my fridge. He's like, do you have any snacks? And I'm like, you can have anything in the fridge. And he goes down to the fridge, he opens it up, and I see him run back to the roof. He's like, oh my God, Isaac, you have whipped cream in your fridge. And I'm like, oh, no. I start making eye contact with my ex. I'm like, this is not a good idea. He takes the whipped cream, pops the cap off. I'm like, oh no. And he sticks it, engulfs his lips around it, and just. Wow. And he swallows it, he looks at me, he goes, Isaac, this tastes just like your cock. Thank you, that's me.
Oh my God. I thought he went up.